the Great Resignation. I am Susan Plain, part of the marketing team here at MHC, and will be facilitating today's webinar. Our speaker is Mark Baruso, who I will introduce shortly. First, I'd like to quickly go over some housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. All participants are muted to prevent background noise. Please feel free to type in any questions you may have along the way into the Q&A section. Attendees will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording on our website so you can view it again on demand. There will be a post-webinar survey that will appear when the webinar ends. Please use this survey to let us know how we're doing and to request any additional information so an MHC resource can follow up with you. We really appreciate your feedback. Mark Baruso is president of Baruso & Associates, has spent the past 27 years establishing himself as a thought leader on accounts payable, accounts receivable, payments, and document automation. A popular speaker engaged for industry conferences, webinars, and podcasts, Mark advises prominent end users and providers on improving document and payment business processes using automation. He has chaired many education conferences and has served on several industry committees and boards. Mark resides in Center City, Philadelphia, with his wife and 3 sons. I'll share a bit about who we are before I hand off the presentation to Mark. For those of you not familiar with MHC, MHC enables organizations to tackle digital transformation with speed and confidence, using our solutions to automate the creation, capture, and distribution of documents and communications across core business processes. With the world's most flexible end-to-end automation platform, we empower our customer business users to eliminate tedious procure-to-pay and order-to-cash tasks, increase efficiency and agility, achieve operational excellent goals, and strengthen their ever-important relationships with customers and vendors. Now let's hear from Mark.
Hey, thank you so much, Susan, and thank you all for joining us today. So as Susan was speaking about increasing operational efficiency and achieving operational excellence, well, I thought that this is a really timely topic for today. Today, organizations are in the throes of hiring difficulties. It's harder these days for organizations to attract and retain staff, and all the while they're being forced to find ways to do more with less. During today's webinar, we're going to show you how AP automation can help your organization navigate today's realities. Before we do all of that, we're going to start with a poll question, which is about to be displayed on your screen. We want to know, is your AP department experiencing more difficulty retaining and or hiring staff now more than ever? Yes or no? Take a moment to respond to the poll question now displayed on your screen, and we'll discuss the results in just a moment. So compared to recent past, or even if you've been in your role for a long time, how much harder is it these days to retain and or to hire accounts payable staff? Take one more moment to respond. And let's see just how timely a topic this is. We asked you, is your AP department experiencing more difficulty retaining and or hiring staff now more than ever? 2/3 of our attendees say yes, you are experiencing more difficulty retaining and hiring staff. 1/3 of our attendees say, nope, this is not a problem, but maybe it's never been easy for your organization. The fact is that whether you call it the Great Resignation, the Great People Shift, the once in a generation, take this job and shove it moment, corporate America is having more and more trouble these days keeping their staff in place and hiring new staff to replace them. Think, just a few years ago, we were in the throes of a tremendous recession caused by the pandemic. And at that time, businesses had no choice but to let staff go. Now things have done a complete 180. Today, employees are leaving their jobs in droves voluntarily to seek more pay, more flexibility, companies that better align with their values and their goals, even to pursue individual pursuits. In some cases, we're finding that employees are retiring earlier than they had planned to achieve some of their life goals. No matter how the reason or what the reason, the fact is that this is having a tremendous impact on businesses. Today, only 65% of people plan to stay with their employer beyond this year. Overall, about 1/4 of all employees say they are looking for a job. In some industries, though, things are even worse. Take telecommunications, where more than 1/3 of all employees are currently looking for a new job. You better believe they're facing some back office challenges. This is a big challenge for businesses these days. How do we manage to do more with less when we're constantly scurrying to try and replace our staff and to hire new employees? Things have gotten so bad that hiring difficulties are now a big concern of no less than the CFO. 74% of CFOs say that their business is having trouble filling positions. Data from the US Department of Commerce really gives us the tale of the tape. Today, unemployment stands at historically low rates. Millions of jobs remain unfilled. And last year in December, capped a year with historically high number of employees who had left their jobs. And lest you think that I'm the fire ant at the picnic, I'm here to tell you that things might actually get worse, because the thing is that many employees are getting older. It's kind of stinks, but it's a lot better than the alternative of not making it. The fact is that retirements now are going to create even more churn in our employee base. By 2026, the share of staff approaching retirement age is going to be significant. And that means we're going to have a real brain drain, if you will, in our AP and finance departments. This is all having a huge impact on the way that accounts payable departments function. Left unchecked, churn in our employees, in our employee base can cause a drop in productivity. It can lead to more errors when folks don't know how things ought to be done. We could have more late payments as things start to slip through the cracks. There's the increased risk of fraud. In many organizations, we rely on seasoned employees to identify transactions that don't seem quite right. And if you have lots of staffing changes, well, now you're inevitably going to have lower staff morale and higher turnover. And what we hear is that in many cases, we lean heavily on the employees who stay behind to get the work done, to fill the gaps when we can't fill our positions. And over time, this leads to more staff burnout. And after the last 2.5 years, staff burnout is the last thing anybody wants. So what are businesses doing about all this? Well, they're certainly not taking this all laying down. We're hearing of more businesses offering signing bonuses, $250 if you stay for 30 days, and even bigger payouts over the course of 2 or 3 months. In some cases, businesses are shelling out thousands of dollars to fill open positions that in the past were truly back office functions. We're also seeing an increase in salaries in certain markets. Today, AP departments are now competing with some fast casual restaurants for workers. And in many cases, the salaries they offer eclipse those of your finance department. We're also seeing more flexible work arrangements. Well, the shift to remote working has helped us out in this regard, but now what we're seeing is employees are reluctant to come back to the office, particularly if they're younger. So what's happened is that organizations are starting to use remote working as a carrot for employees, both current and potential. We're also seeing more businesses use employee training and development and opportunities to entice new employees into the fold. In the past, accounts payable was the quintessential back office function. In many cases, folks stayed in accounts payable for years. Well, businesses now recognize that they need to present a career path to new employees to show them how the skills they learn in accounts payable can help elevate their career both in the department and beyond over time. And so we're seeing much more focus being given to how we can upskill those people we hire in accounts payable. We're also seeing businesses expand their hiring boundaries. Consider this: remote working on steroids. Well, once we've opened the door to having remote employees, there's no reason they need to be in our city or much less our state. And so now businesses are hiring staff that they never even meet in person. The question is are these measures enough? Is this the elixir to what it is that's causing AP departments so many challenges when it comes to retaining and hiring staff? Well, I would argue that it's going to fall short in many cases. And I'll tell you what you ought to do in just a moment. But first, it's time for our next poll question, which is about to be displayed on your screen. This time I want to know, which of the following strategies has your AP department deployed to retain and or attract staff? Check all that apply. Have you increased your staff salaries? Have you offered hiring bonuses to new employees? Are you offering more flexible work arrangements to existing and prospective employees? Are you finding new training opportunities for new and existing employees? Are you offering more development opportunities? Or have you done none of the above? Take a moment to respond to the poll question now displayed in your screen. I will discuss the results in just a moment. Some would argue that, well, the easy answer to all of this, of course, is to just pay AP folks more. That'll surely get them in the seat and get them to stay there. The problem I hear from a lot of AP leaders is that this comes at a time when we're being pressured to do more with less in our AP departments, and the specter of a recession on the horizon certainly only complicates that. So in many cases, AP leaders simply don't have the funds available for increased salaries or even signing bonuses for that matter. So we're seeing that some departments that used to rely on seasonal college help or recent college graduates, for instance, they're even being priced out of the market as these young workers are now able to find employment elsewhere at higher pay. We're also seeing much more interest in flexible work arrangements from prospective employees. This is particularly true with millennials, but in many cases, it's employees across the board who don't want to be tethered to an office desk or chair. In fact, 1/4 of all employees say that they'd probably turn the other way rather than be forced back into an office. So let's see how you all responded to our poll question. We asked you, which of the following strategies has your AP department deployed to retain and or to attract staff? Check all that apply. 71% of you say that you're offering more flexible work arrangements to new and existing employees. Bravo, this makes perfect sense. 29% of you say you're offering higher salaries. I'd be curious how much you've had to increase your salaries. Use a chat tool to tell me. Be fascinating to compare notes during the Q&A portion. Another 14% of you say you're offering development opportunities to employees. Help them see a career path, to see AP as a springboard to other things within your organization. 21% of you say you've done none of the above. Maybe you haven't had to offer any enticements to existing or new employees, or maybe you're doing something different. The fact is that while all of these different measures can help ease the burden of that have been created by hiring difficulties. The better approach is to find ways to automate and standardize our processes so that we're better positioned to do more with less. When we have highly efficient accounts payable processes, well, now we're able to get more out of the staff we have, and we're more easily able to navigate potential financial disruption caused by a recession. Let's start by taking a look at where things stand in accounts payable. According to research recently conducted by the Institute of Finance and Management, few AP departments today are fully automated. In fact, many departments are relying largely on manual tasks. 57% of you say you have some type of automation, but you still have lots of manual tasks. Another third of you say you've got a lot more automation, but you still have some manual tasks. And 6% of organizations, well, they're manual paper pushing machines. Only 4% of all AP departments surveyed this quarter by the Institute of Finance and Management say they're fully automated with no manual tasks. So what does this mean in those departments? Well, it means that those employees spend lots and lots of time on tasks that are manual and repetitive, things like keying invoice data and pushing around emails and paper and chasing down information, fixing errors, mistakes, and dealing with endless phone calls and emails from suppliers and stakeholders about where things stand in the process. What's more, unless you have full automation, well, there's no chance that you're going to be able to operate in what I would call a continuous process improvement loop. Less than 1 in 5 of all finance departments operate in that kind of an environment. Today, many organizations have what I call desk level decision making. We rely on Gladys to make decisions about how it is that an invoice transaction should be handled. Some of you have departmental level decision making. You built in some rules, maybe even using some technology that standardizes the way that people at each desk do their process, but there's still no efficiencies across the department. What you really want is to combine full automation with optimal process improvements so that now you're able to continue building incremental improvements. And the reason that this is so critical is that when you're at a time of staff churn or economic upheaval, well, now it's going to be harder for you to navigate that environment. Today, 1/3 of all accounts payable employees are working longer hours. In fact, cast your eyes to the far left. 13% of AP departments are working 2 hours or more additional each day. Think about that. If that's a full-time employee, that means that they're working an additional 25% per day. But the thing is I'm hearing from AP leaders who are telling me that they're up in some cases burning the midnight oil just to get the invoices out the door. It's harder these days to get invoice approvals when you're relying on, say, emails to route them around your organization, right? You don't have visibility into the process. You don't have tracking. It's easy for invoices to get misrouted, and you don't have any way to be able to escalate things when somebody doesn't act fast enough. And so to compensate for this, AP leaders are trying to work longer hours to manage things. Today, 59% of all AP departments say it's harder for them to approve invoices on time because of the shift to remote working. So if your staff is working longer hours, I'd wager that they're probably going to be more inclined to start looking at other opportunities. This is especially true if they spend their day toiling in manual, repetitive tasks. Today, 84%, the typical accounts payable practitioner's day is spent on manual, repetitive activities such as keying invoice data and chasing down approvals on checks. That leaves little time for things that like analyzing data to identify early payment discount opportunities, collaborating with procurement, or even building relationships with suppliers. And you know what? Even AP managers spend more time each day on manual activities than on the managerial tasks they were hired to perform. Things like hiring staff and upskilling employees, kind of important these days. And all the while, whether you're an AP line person or an AP manager, you've got to keep track of dozens and dozens of business rules and industry standards and best practices and auditor guidelines for how the whole blasted thing ought to get done. No wonder AP folks are looking for the door. Today, we waste lots and lots of time on things like PO matching, making sure that an invoice matches up against a PO that's in our ERP or accounting system. We're manually reconciling bank statements with payments that we made. We're trying to double key data oftentimes into our accounting system or ERP. Maybe we're dealing with endless phone calls and emails from suppliers about status. And then we're probably doing lots and lots of manual reporting, often in spreadsheets, trying to show where things stand with our company's cash flow and our corporate spending. This is what takes up so much time in our accounts payable departments. This is why AP folks are working longer hours these days. And this is why it's so hard to keep and to attract staff. Who wants to do all of this? You might not even want to do it all. Today, a single invoice is typically going to require lots of manual handling. The typical invoice is manually handled 5 times in an organization that doesn't have automation. And I think that number's got a little thumb on the scale, to be honest with you, because we all know that once an invoice is processed in a paper environment, what do you do with it? You put it in a cardboard box or you put it in a file drawer, and who's keeping track of how many times that's handled? But what's amazing about these stats is that most organizations manually handle most of the invoices that they receive from suppliers. Now, this is startling because we also know that most AP departments have some kind of technology for processing invoices. Maybe they've got a scanning solution over here or a supplier portal over there, or maybe there's some EDI over there for certain suppliers. And yet, despite all that, we're still doing a lot of manual handling. And this is what starts to drain our employees' time. So what's going on here? Why is this the case? Well, don't blame technology. Blame the way that we've gone about automating our departments. It's all wrong in many cases. What we want to do is we want to find ways to eliminate all those manual repetitive tasks so we could free up our AP staff to focus on fulfilling value-added activities. Things like helping the business grow, looking for ways to improve profitability, delivering a better experience to our stakeholders as well as our suppliers, to identifying ways that we can gain a competitive advantage, expand into new markets, or maybe even innovate our products. This is the kind of thing that a finance professional wants to spend their days doing, not keying data and shuffling paper. So the question is how do we make that possible? Well, before I tell you that, it's time for our third poll question, which is about to be displayed on your screen. This time we want to know, what percentage of your staff's typical workday is spent on manual repetitive tasks? What percentage of your staff's typical workday is spent on manual repetitive tasks? Their entire day? 75% to 99% of their day? 50% to 74% of their day? 25% to 49% of their day? Just 1 to 24% of their day? Or none of it? They don't spend their day on a single manual repetitive task. Take a moment to respond to the poll question now displayed on your screen, and we'll discuss the results in just a moment. And here's a spoiler alert. If you've got paper in your AP department, I don't want to see any low numbers in this poll question, as in your poll response to this. So how much time are they spending? And then whatever you think the number is, you probably need to add on to it, I'm guessing. One more second before we close it out. And all I can say is that my friends at MHC are going to have some work to do based on the early poll results here. All right, let's see just how much time everyone's staff is wasting on manual repetitive tasks. We asked us, what percentage of your staff's typical workday is spent on manual repetitive tasks? 45% of you say that between 50% and 74% of your staff's typical workday is spent on manual repetitive tasks. Another 27% of you said that between 75% and 99% of the typical person's workday is spent on manual repetitive tasks. Only 27% of you say that less than half of your staff's typical workday is spent on manual repetitive tasks. I went to public school, but if my math is correct, nearly 3/4 of the attendees on the line say that most of their staff are spending most of their day on manual repetitive tasks. And yet, if you were to walk down the hall and ask your CFO or controller what it is that they'd like your staff focused on, well, it's certainly not going to be manual keying and paper pushing and responding to supplier inquiries. Today, the business expects more out of accounts payable. They expect you to be a partner to the business, to help the business identify ways to grow, to achieve profitability, revenue growth, market share. And they know that if they can unlock the data that flows through your accounts payable department, well, they're going to be better positioned to help the business do that. And so what we need to do is we need to find ways to free up your staff time. And this goes back to the Great Resignation. Because now, if you can find ways to transform the way it is your staff works, you're going to create a position that's going to be much more about data analysis than about data entry. And this is a lesson that's going to be helpful to you beyond this Great Resignation that we're currently experiencing. And it'll be key once we get into the potential of a recession. Because when we ask accounts payable professionals, the rank and file, if you will, how happy they are with their current role, well, a lot of them are frankly meh. They aren't that thrilled with their role. Look at these statistics. 37% of AP professionals describe themselves as being moderately satisfied with their role today. In fact, 21% of AP professionals say they're not satisfied at all. And this speaks volumes about what it is they're doing today. This should be a wake-up call to AP leaders everywhere. Your staff might not be banging on your door complaining, but you better believe that they're unhappy. And at a time like today, when labor markets are tight and workers are in demand, someone might be offering them a position that offers them exactly what they're looking for. And this is what we need to be concerned about. Today, only 42% of all AP professionals say they're satisfied with their current role, and less than 1 in 10 are extremely satisfied. This should scare the dickens out of AP leaders. Your staff is liable to head out the door without giving you any warning. And you know what? Things are getting worse. Today, many AP professionals say that their level of satisfaction has waned over the past several years. 1/3 of all AP professionals say they're less satisfied in their role compared to 2 years ago. Now, I realize that there's lots of reasons why somebody might be less satisfied in their role. Maybe they aren't so keen on working from home. Maybe they've got a new boss who's kind of grouchy a lot of mornings. Maybe their responsibilities changed. But you know what? There's also the possibility that they're just becoming tired of the monotony of manual invoice processing. And so this is an opportunity to transform that role. Today, less than half of all AP professionals say they're more satisfied with their role compared to 2 years ago. And you know what? Many of our AP professionals are searching for a job. More than 1/3 of AP professionals surveyed by the Institute of Finance and Management this quarter say that they've searched for a new job or applied for a new job within the last 6 months. Remember those stats I told you earlier, that 22% of all workers across all industries are looking for a job? Guys, there's something wrong here. We've got to find out why it is that such a higher percentage of AP folks are looking for new jobs. And 30% of AP pros are currently looking for a job or planning to. So things haven't gotten better over the course of 6 months. This is the environment in which we are working. And what is it that folks are looking for in a new job? Well, we know that folks like to get more money. We know they want more flexibility in their job. They might be looking for better working conditions, the ability to work at home or maybe in an office. But one of the things that they're definitely looking for is automation. And that's not for workers, that's for AP professionals. When IOFM asked AP pros how likely they would be to consider a job opportunity at an organization that didn't have tools or technology to automate their job, look what happens. Nearly half of all AP pros said they'd be unlikely or extremely unlikely to take that job. So now I want you to stop and think, is your job this job that they'd be unlikely to take? And if so, what are you doing about it? Even just 16% of all AP pros said they'd ignore manual activities and take a job sheerly for the money or for the flexibility or any of those other things that we might offer as employers. This is key here. This is what we've got to solve for. And this is a perfect time to be thinking about this topic, because today we've got to find ways to bring in employees and retain them and do more with less as we tighten our belts in the lead up to the recession. And you know what? Today, more organizations are looking at automation. Over the past 2 years, 56% of finance departments say that they deployed AP automation. Another 53% of finance departments deployed expense management tools. Today, more finance departments are automating AP. And that goes back to the slides I gave you earlier, where only 4% of AP departments are highly automated. Today, organizations recognize that the disruption caused by the shift to remote working exposed and exacerbated the shortcomings of the way we've been doing things in AP for years. It's hard to adapt supplier onboarding and invoice processing and supplier payments to this new remote work environment. Automation is critical to helping us solve these issues. And it's key here that not only does it help us achieve more efficiency and lower our costs, but automation also contributes to AP employee satisfaction. When IOFM asked employees how satisfied they were in their current position, what IOFM found was staggering. Those employees who worked in a fully automated department, in other words, a department that had no manual tasks, were by far and away the most likely to say they're extremely satisfied. And if you look at that chart from left to right, it ain't even close, folks. What's more, when you combine it with the percentage of employees who said they were very satisfied, what we find is that 3/4 of employees who work in departments that are fully automated with no manual tasks, They're stark raving fans of their jobs. These are the people who are going to stay put. These are the people we need to strive to get more of in our departments. Look to the far right, folks. In manual, paper pushing environments, it's hard to get employees to be satisfied. None of them are extremely satisfied with that environment. Just a fraction are very satisfied. And many of them, the highest percentage of all users, are not satisfied at all. This is what you need to figure out. And so what do we do about all this? Well, the solution to these problems is to consider automating our AP departments from end to end. End-to-end AP automation provides us with efficiencies to free our staff from the unfulfilling manual tasks that hold them and our department and our business down. So what does this mean when you say end-to-end automation? I mean, lots of vendors say they've got end-to-end automation. Well, to me, it means 5 critical capabilities. The first is I want you to look for a solution that automates data capture. And today that starts with document receipt. You want to find a solution that can ingest any paper or electronic invoice. So can it take an invoice that's sent via email or a supplier portal or an FTP upload, for instance? And for those documents that come via the mail, does it have the ability to digitize those documents? And once all the documents have been digitized, does it have the ability to standardize the processing? To automatically extract the data from the invoices, all that header and line item detail, things like the supplier name, the supplier number, the remittance address, maybe even line item detail. Extract that data with a high level of accuracy, and then to be able to process it, to apply business rules to match it against information on a PO or proof of delivery document that might reside in your ERP or accounting software. Does it have the ability to take those matched invoices and automatically post them to your ERP or accounting software without anyone ever having to lift a finger? And in cases where you have an unmatched invoice or an invoice that requires review by somebody, say it's an invoice from a strategic supplier or a new supplier, or maybe it's an invoice for a high dollar amount, does it provide you with digital workflows, digital rules, if you will, for routing those invoices based on preset rules that you've configured? In a digital workflow environment, now we're able to digitally route those documents and notify someone that they have an invoice that they need to approve, alert them if they haven't taken action and the invoice is approaching its due date, to automatically escalate the invoice if they continue to not take action. Maybe they're out of the office, to provide AP with visibility into where that invoice is in the process. And of course, to provide audit logging on each action taken on an invoice along the way. A lot of you are relying on emails to route your invoices for approval these days. And that made perfect sense when you couldn't get into the office. But what you need is a workflow solution that standardizes and normalizes this process, enforces your corporate business rules, ensures chain of custody and segregation of duties, and makes sure that nothing gets lost in the shuffle. Once we've got all your invoices approved, well, now we need to integrate it with whatever accounting system or ERP you have. And this is critical. Find a solution that integrates into your legacy systems. You don't want to be forced to rekey data on approved invoices into your ERP. That makes no sense to have a manual process that follows an automated process. So when you're talking to vendors, make sure they provide you with that seamless integration. And finally, make sure whatever solution you're looking at provides you with the analytics you need to make sure you keep everything flowing smoothly. Does it offer graphical dashboards so you can track key performance indicators and understand the status of invoices in real time? Does it allow you to drill down into those graphical dashboards to be able to see the cause of problems and uncover potential trends? Does it provide you with mobile access to keep those people on the go, in the know? Does it allow you to do ad hoc reporting so you can create reports quickly as your business needs change? And does it allow you to export data into downstream systems and processes so that information can flow fast for decision makers who work elsewhere in the organization? If you find a solution that does this, now you're able to achieve tremendous efficiencies in your department. Highly automated AP departments, those that have deployed a technology like the one I just described, well, they can process invoices at less than 1/4 the cost of those departments that have little or no automation. What's more, highly automated AP departments process 8 times as many invoices per full-time equivalent as their peers with little or no automation. And if you combine a high percentage of PO-based invoices with a high level of automation, now you can process 11 times as many invoices per FTE. What's more, highly automated AP departments take less than 1/4 the time as their peers with little or no automation to approve a single invoice. Why am I telling you all these metrics? Well, the thing is when we're trying to find ways to manage this great resignation, this great people shift, this is exactly what we need. This is how we're able to adjust, and it's going to position us for times good and bad. You want to find a way to have a solution that allows you to automate invoice processing. Does it let you receive any invoice, capture data, validate that data, match it up against POs, then post any matched invoices directly to your ERP? The goal is touch-free invoice processing to get our people out of the way, to free them from having to do this. And to achieve touch-free invoice processing, you need a way to be able to ingest and digitize invoices from any source, not just certain sources. You need to be able to extract and validate data with a high level of automation. And you need to be able to automatically update ERP records and transactions without doing any keying. These are the types of things that bog our staff down today. This is why they have to manually handle so many of our invoices. I get asked all the time, Mark, what should the number one criteria be when I'm talking to a vendor who's selling AP automation solutions? Well, to me, it's this. Don't tell me about your data capture rates. Tell me about what percentage of my manual handling you're going to eliminate. How many of these invoices that I receive are going to get posted to my ERP or accounting system without me ever having to lift a finger? You also want to find a solution that has those workflow approvals I talked about. These are some of the things I want you to look for. But one of the key things I want you to ask vendors about is configurability. Every vendor has a slick demonstration that shows your invoices flowing smoothly from point A to point B without ever the chance of a hiccup. But we all know that reality is much different than that. So I want you to find out just how configurable the workflows are that particular vendors offer. How easily can they be adapted for your invoices? And what types of organizations do they work with in your industry with the same types of workflow challenges you might face? I also want you to be sure that the solution you look for can handle all of the different types of invoices your organization might receive. There might be PO-based invoices or non-PO-based invoices, check requests. You might have invoices from utilities that are 100 pages long. I want you to understand how each solution you evaluate can deal with each of those different types of invoices. What's more, make sure the solution has the ability to handle the workflows that you've established for different suppliers. New suppliers are likely going to have different workflow rules than those suppliers that are strategic or that present invoices of a high dollar amount. Workflow is critical in today's work from home environment. Today, most AP teams work remotely at least part of the time. And I'm here to tell you that there's no telling when or if AP folks will be returning to the office full time. And what we've done to this point is we've made the best of the situation. We've adapted our traditional processes to support remote work. Now we've got to pivot. Now we've got to find ways to achieve incremental, sustainable improvements. And this is going to require automation. Emails aren't going to provide us with what we need over the long haul. So I want you to understand how an end-to-end AP automation solution can help support remote work. And this will also be critical as you look to hire staff with flexible work arrangements. You want to give them the tools they need to be as productive as they can be and as happy in their role. So you want to find ways to make sure they can collaborate easily with coworkers, access the information they need, and even be able to resolve exceptions without lots of back and forth phone calls and emails. Today's workers, they expect this kind of flexibility. 35% of people say they're more likely to look for a job if they've got to work in an office full time. I know it's tempting to say, well, AP was always an office-bound job. Let's get everybody back in. But that might not be what your workers have in mind, or prospective workers might have in mind. So as you're looking to find ways to improve staff morale, lower turnover, and attract top talent, remember, it's going to be critical that you offer flexible work arrangements. I also want you to make sure that the solutions you're evaluating provide you with visibility, no matter where staff work. You also want to make sure that your employees can easily access the personalized information they need to do their jobs. Remember, AP folks are financial professionals first and foremost. We want to allow them to be the financial analysts that they want to be. And nothing is more fulfilling than trying to do analytics and business intelligence tasks. So we want to provide our teams with tools that go far beyond spreadsheets. So the message we want to leave you with today is these are uncertain times when it comes to hiring and retaining staff. You're finding that it's harder to get folks to stay in their jobs. What's more, the complications that might be caused by the downturn in the economy are only going to raise the stakes for us to find ways to do more with less. And so automation is a critical tool that we can use. Today, AP automation helps us maximize staff productivity. It frees our staff to focus more time on strategic activities. It enables us to easily adapt to changing business needs. It supports our staff to be productive, whether they're in the office, at home, or even on the road. And AP automation provides us with smart financial and cash controls. It puts smart insights at the fingertips of the people who need them, whether they work on your front line or in the C-suite. AP automation is critical to navigating this great resignation. And if you want to do it, well, you need three things. The first, agile tools and systems. I think that's going to start with an end-to-end AP automation solution. You're going to need something that provides quick access to internal and external data. You've got to digitize your data. You've got to get it all in a centralized place. You've got to provide workflow tools for serving it up. And you've got to give folks the ability to instantly access information from anywhere at any time using any device. And finally, you've got to have a way to get seamless integration between AP and all the systems that reside around it. If you do this, if you find a solution that does these three things, you're going to be better positioned for the Great Resignation and beyond. We have one more poll question, which is about to be displayed on your screen. This time we want to know, do you have an active or upcoming AP initiative? Do you have an active or upcoming AP initiative? And in this case, we won't share the results of this poll question. So just take a moment to respond. Today, we find that 71% of all AP departments have plans to deploy more technology. And as startling as that number is, here's the one that I think will really surprise you. 44% of AP leaders who describe their department as being largely automated say they have plans to deploy more technology. 44%. And what that tells me is that AP leaders recognize that partial automation isn't enough for what it is they're trying to achieve. They know they've got to be fully automated in order to deal with today's challenges. So now, Susan, I think we want to learn a little bit more about MHC North Star and how it can help an organization achieve the end-to-end efficiencies that I've been advocating during today's webinar.
Yes, thank you for that exceptional presentation, Mark. What a wealth of statistics to support why automation is needed to help these AP departments survive that great resignation or the great people shift, however we want to call it. I'm so blown away by your presentation. I'm actually going off script. So, but the stats of at least when an invoice being handled at least 5 times before it's paid without automation. Wow.
I want to know if anybody on the line can top that. Is there anybody listening in right now who knows that their department handles a paper invoice more than 5 times? Susan, I think you can offer up some MHC North Star swag if we've got somebody who could top 5. So go ahead, use the chat tool to tell us if you know your department is struggling with even more manual handling. But I digress.
Yeah, let us know. And then the 30% of AP professionals are looking for new jobs. I mean, they want the focus on the value added activities, the revenue growth, profitability, get away from and eliminate that manual repetitive task role.
Yeah, and that's data from this quarter. So this is live data, Susan. That's what's going on right now in AP departments. And the question is do the folks on the line realize this is happening on their staff, or is this an unpleasant surprise? And if so, I apologize in advance. Or you can thank me later.
Yes. So, but I'd like to just say that MHC's North Star platform, it provides that end-to-end AP automation Mark described, that data capture, the processing, to the workflow, the integration, and analytics. We have fantastic dashboards. So you have visibility at all times for that tracking, you know, where workflow is. Do you need to do any escalations? And the North Star is built from the ground up to offer that empowerment across your entire AP departments in terms of increasing visibility into the critical processes, as well as intelligently automating data capture for your PO and non-PO invoices, and also automating workflow and approval rules to help your users efficiently manage their day-to-day tasks, all within a cloud platform that's can be tailored and configured to your individual organization's needs with simple drag and drop interface. It doesn't require any coding or backend infrastructure updates. I mean, it is a wonderful way to find those tremendous efficiencies that AP is looking for these days. So with that, I want to make sure you have contact information. Reach out to Bridget if any of these items are of interest to you. And what I'd like to do next is get started with a few of the questions that came in throughout.
Let's do it.
All right. So Mark, I'll pose these to you. First one out of the gate here is, what are the biggest obstacles that AP departments face when automating?
Yeah. So AP leaders tell us there's a couple of reasons that they don't automate, right? I mean, 71% of AP departments are automating, and that's exciting, right? That we got to get on that train, right? The bandwagon, if you will. But that doesn't mean everybody's automating. There's a couple of things that AP leaders tell us are the reason for dragging their feet. Number one, a lack of IT resources, and this has been a historic one, right? We never have enough IT resources to support a project, but cloud-based solutions have really taken out the knees from this issue, because now these systems can go in fast and they can be integrated with our ERP seamlessly, and we can even train our staff when they work from home. The second issue we hear is, well, hey, we don't have enough department resources to support a project. This speaks to some of the ways that we've done automation in the past, right? So we've automated in the past. We had these big, complicated on-premise systems, and they required lots and lots of setup. Even some consultants would have to come on site to do some professional services. Took a long time, and it was really risky. Well, today's AP solutions are easily configured, and they can be deployed fast. The other thing I hear all the time is, hey, management won't bite on this, right? They're trying to save money, not spend money. Well, the thing is that CFOs are actually leading the digital transformation initiatives at 3/4 of all businesses today. So they understand the power of automation. The trick is to put AP automation in terms that's going to resonate with a CFO, right? So you want to talk about how it's going to help improve cash flow visibility, liquidity management, and help mitigate risks. And then the other reason we hear that AP departments say they don't automate is we got too many other priorities. We're busy these days. We're working longer. Here's the thing. We can't afford to wait anymore, because today it's harder than ever to process these invoices, and we've got more pressures and more risks than ever. So, Susan, those are some of the reasons, but I think today's automation really addresses them well.
Right, thank you. Move to the next one here. We have, how does AP automation improve staff productivity?
Yeah, we're going to eliminate all that manual keying. So think about some of the things we won't have to do anymore. We won't have to open the mail. Hopefully, we're going to get those invoices submitted to us electronically via email or a supplier portal or FTP upload. So no more mail opening, no more keying data. I know a lot of you who are getting emailed invoices are rekeying all of that data. Hey, I got a dirty secret for you. Extracting PDF data is some of the easiest work a solution like MHC North Star can possibly do. So you're going to get that data. It's going to be right. And then the next thing is no more manual matching. You're going to be able to ease your GL coding. You're not going to have to match invoices to your POs and PODs. And those that are matched, well, they're going to go right to your ERP or accounting system. No one's ever going to have to key them again. And then the other one is all that time that we spend trying to figure out who I should be routing an invoice to. Maybe you're with a small business and there's only a few different approvers, but probably with a mid or large business, and it's going to require some tracking down the right person and then getting them the invoice and then nagging them to respond to it. Those are just some of the ways that you're going to be able to eliminate some manual tasks and improve your staff productivity.
Right. Let's take one more here, Mark.
Let's do it.
What are some signs that an AP automation solution is easy to use?
That's a great one. So here's the trick to this one is it's tempting to say, I'm not going to have my frontline staff be a part of the evaluation process because I don't want to scare them. I don't want them to get nervous they're going to lose their jobs. But to me, that's all wrong. What you want to do is clearly explain to staff that this isn't about losing their job. It's about losing those manual tasks that take them down. So involve them in the evaluation process. Explain why it is you're doing this for their benefit and the business's benefit. And then they'll know, does the screen have intuitive steps that guide the user through the process? Does it clearly show the status of an invoice? Does it make it easy for someone to use point and click functionality to adapt workflows? Is information easily accessible? Frontline staff will know, but you'll know too. So those are some of the tips for making sure it's easy to use.
Great. Well, I think that's all the time we have for our questions today. Any additional ones here we have, we'll just reply to those individually. And please know that all of them will be answered. And like I said, reach out to Bridget to learn how MHC's North Star solution can help your organization achieve its AP automation goals. Her information is here. And just a reminder, as we wrap up here, you'll receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording on our website. And thank you for joining us. And thank you, Mark, for presenting. And please take a moment to fill out the post-webinar survey. We really appreciate your feedback.
Please. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.